Jenny. I have 3 young children, ages 2, 4, and 6. We live on the South Shore. I used to be a teacher, and now I'm a stay-at-home mom. I've actually had a couple issues with my placenta along my 3 pregnancies, and it became clear in the second pregnancy that I was having some real difficulty delivering my placenta. And then my 3rd pregnancy was really challenging and high risk, and I was here at the Brigham being watched by Dr. Carusi through the whole process. I think what's interesting with my story, with my Accreta, is that after my second birth, my second delivery, the doctor who delivered me sort of cautioned me about having more children. And my husband and I were a little bit sad about that because we always wanted to have 3 children. And so I talked about it to other people, and I was referred to Dr. Carusi in the center here at the Brigham from another physician. And about a month after we delivered the second baby, we went to see Dr. Carusi at the Brigham to investigate if having a 3rd baby was a possibility. And so we met with Dr. Carusi, and she told us that we could definitely have another baby. It would be a high-risk pregnancy, but that the hospital here would be able to support us. And she laid out exactly what we would need to do, and she said basically, come back and tell me when you're pregnant and we'll talk. And then she took us from there, and she answered every question we had. Probably I asked her the same question multiple times. For my 3rd pregnancy, I was on bed rest at the Brigham here on the 8th floor for about 2 months. The nurses were amazing. I can't say enough about the nurses at the Brigham, and they were so kind, and they were really looking out for me the whole time. And when you're in the hospital for such a long time, it's really hard to be emotional because, which sounds kind of funny, but you have all these people coming into your room every day, and you have visitors coming to visit, and you're going through a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress, and it's really hard on the family. It was really hard to be separated from my girls, who were at the time 20 months old and almost 4. And I had been really excited to spend the summer with them. And then I was put on bed rest unexpectedly. And that was really hard. And so it was like mourning the time without my children, and the time that I thought I was going to have as a family of 4 before we became a family of 5. And so I had all these emotions, and people would come to visit me, and I didn't want to be sad for them, and I didn't want to make them upset. And then you have everyone coming to change your IV and to take your blood and to wake you up in the middle of the night. And it felt like there was no privacy because it was really hard to let my guard down when I was in the hospital. From the beginning, when I found out I might have a serious Accreta, I knew that a hysterectomy was sort of part of the equation, or it could be part of the equation, and I did not feel comfortable with that. Although I didn't think I wanted to have more than 3 children, especially after having such complicated pregnancies, I wasn't ready to give up my right or ability to have children. And I talked endlessly with my doctor about what might happen during the delivery. And we discussed things like blood transfusion, blood loss, hysterectomy, and everything in between that. And then I remember specifically she would go over everything with me, and then I would say, oh, my husband's coming tonight at 6. Would you mind coming back up and explaining it to him? And she did willingly. And she would come and explain the same thing to him because he had so many of his own questions that weren't my questions. You know, I was concerned about my uterus, and he was concerned about me, and which is a little bit different. And she was willing to repeatedly answer all my questions, so I knew what would happen. For a very long time during my pregnancy, I was preparing for my first C-section. I had 2 vaginal births with my other children, and this was going to be a cesarean with the complications I was having. I had placenta previa, which is often associated with Accreta. And because of that, the recommendation was to have a C-section. I also had a baby who was breached, and he was very large. So all of those things pointed to C-section. So for the entire pregnancy, I was gearing up for a C-section. And remarkably, I was released from the hospital because my previa disappeared and I was no longer at risk for the complications that a previa brings. And I went back in to see my doctor, and it turned out not only had the baby turned head down, but my water had broke. And she sent me up to the labor and delivery floor, and I ended up delivering my third baby vaginally as well, without a C-section, which is quite unusual, but it does happen. He's great. He is the cutest little guy. He's got blonde, long hair, which some people confuse him as my third daughter, but he is the sweetest, most mellow kid, which is interesting because actually in utero in the hospital, he was always calm no matter how many times we went down to the delivery floor or whatever was happening. He was just a steady kid in there and was happy and easygoing, and he certainly is now. He's talking, he's running around, he's dressing up, he wants to ride his bike, and he's a happy little guy. So the first piece of advice I would give somebody would be to really advocate for themselves and their medical care, and no matter where you live in the country or in the world, to find a facility and a doctor that can, one, explain to you what's happening, to make you feel safe, because it's really scary. It's a really scary time to be told that not only is your pregnancy at risk, but you're at risk too. And the second piece of advice would be to reach out to other mothers and other women and just people in general and tell them what's going on so you don't feel lonely or trapped or scared, in the hopes that somebody will know somebody who also had this diagnosis, and that you can get in touch with them, because there's nothing like talking to someone who's been through what you're going through. I think that's really powerful, and I think it's really important for women not to shy away and for women to really speak up about what's going on for them so that they can feel supported by their entire community.